the predator's world. What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, someone in your life is studying you? Not because they admire you, not because they respect you, but because they're calculating you, the way a hunter studies its prey. Every smile you've received, every compliment that felt a little too polished, every question that probed just a little too deep. These aren't random acts, they are moves in a hidden game, the game of psychological warfare. Here's the part no one tells you. You are already in this game. The only question is whether you're the one pulling the strings or the one being pulled apart by them. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He wrote, "One who wishes to act entirely up to his profession of virtue soon meets with what destroys him." Translation: if you try to live by goodness alone, if you keep believing honesty and kindness will protect you, you will be eaten alive. Because this world isn't filled with fair fights, it's filled with predators, and predators don't respect your virtue, they exploit it. Think about the last time someone made you feel guilty for saying no, or the moment a colleague praised you only to dump extra work on your plate, or that friend who listened to your secrets then used them against you later. Were those coincidences, or were they tests? Small probes to see if you would break, to see if you would bend. The truth is brutal. Manipulators don't look for strength. They look for softness. They look for hesitation in your voice, for the need to be liked, for the craving to be approved of. They don't need to be smarter than you. They just need you to hand them the tools. And the moment they see it, they strike. You were taught since childhood to be honest, kind, and open. Noble ideas, yes, but in the wrong hands, your honesty becomes a blueprint of your weaknesses. Your kindness becomes a leash. Your openness becomes a weapon, not against others, but against you. So if you keep playing the good guy in a world of predators, what happens? You don't win. You don't even survive. You get used, drained, controlled. That's why Machiavelli's world still matters. Because he didn't waste time pretending humans were angels. He studied them as they are, selfish, ambitious, ruthless when opportunity strikes. And what he discovered is the same lesson you must learn today. If you want to survive, you must understand the game. If you want to dominate, you must learn to play it better than anyone else. This isn't about becoming cruel. It's about becoming unreadable. It's about taking back control of the levers manipulators have been pulling on you your whole life. Imagine this. You walk into a room. Everyone is talking, smiling, testing each other with little jokes, subtle digs, innocent questions. Most people rush to prove themselves. They explain, they defend, they laugh too hard, reveal too much, and hand over all their data without realizing it. But you don't rush, you don't defend, you don't even try to prove anything. You sit back, calm, observant. You ask one question, maybe two, and then you let silence do the rest. What happens? The room shifts. Suddenly, they're watching you. They're wondering what you're thinking. They're nervous because they can't read you. That's not passivity. That's power. Ask yourself this. How many times have you lost an argument not because you were wrong, but because you got emotional? How many times have you agreed to something you didn't want, just because you were pressured in the moment? How many times have you overshared, only to regret it later when that information was used against you? These aren't random mistakes. They're proof that you've been playing without a strategy, while others have been playing with one. But here's the good news. You don't have to keep playing the victim. From this point forward, you don't react. You calculate. You don't justify. You observe. You don't beg for approval. You decide when and if to give it, because power never begs. And that's what this journey is about. This isn't a lecture. It's a manual, a battle plan forged from cold logic, sharp instincts, and ruthless clarity. In the next chapters, you will learn how to spot manipulators in seconds, flip their tactics back on them, and walk through chaos with unreadable calm. Each tactic we uncover is not just survival, it's dominance. Because when you stop being predictable, when you stop bleeding emotions into the hands of others, you become something terrifying to manipulators, untouchable. So, here is your first challenge. Look back at your last 3 conversations. How much did you reveal? How fast did you respond? Did you mirror the other person, or did you hand them everything they needed to read you? If that realization makes you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is the first crack in the illusion you've been living under. From this point on, your life will be divided into two eras: before you understood the game and after. And once you cross that line, you can never go back, because when you see the game, you can't unsee it. Shattering illusions. If manipulators have one superpower, it's this: they make you believe you're the one in control, when in reality, you're dancing to their tune. They don't push directly, they probe, they test, they study, and every time you react, you hand them a piece of yourself, your fears, your desires, your soft spots. That's why the first step to breaking free is simple, but brutal. You must shatter the illusion. Reflection as a weapon. Here's what manipulators hate most: seeing themselves. Their power depends on an invisible asymmetry. They act, you react. They control the script, you play the part. But the moment you hold up a mirror, when you reflect their tactics back instead of engaging emotionally, the illusion collapses. Someone asks you a loaded question? Don't answer it. Ask them the same question back. Someone tries to provoke you with riddles or vague statements? Don't scramble to decode them. Respond with silence. Someone baits you with kindness that feels too polished? Match it calmly, coldly, without adding depth. You're not fighting them. You're forcing them to face themselves. And here's the truth: most manipulators can't stand their own reflection, the mirror in real life. Imagine a colleague trying to corner you. Why haven't you turned this in yet? Everyone else has. Most people would rush into defense mode. I was busy, or I'll get it to you soon. But you tilt your head, look at them calmly, and ask, why do you ask? Suddenly, the script flips. Now they're the one explaining, fumbling, revealing more than they intended. You've broken the illusion that they're leading the dance. That is the power of reflection. It turns manipulation back on itself. The emotional vacuum. But reflection alone isn't enough, because manipulators have another weapon, one even more dangerous. And if you don't learn to neutralize it, they'll own you forever. That weapon is your emotions. Think about it. They poke you with sarcasm and you flare up. They lace a compliment with an insult and you over-explain. They guilt trip you and you defend yourself endlessly. The moment you react, they win, because now you're inside their cage. So what's the counter? You don't fight emotion with more emotion. You remove it entirely. You become a vacuum, cold, silent, unreadable. When someone tries to provoke you, you give them nothing. No smile, no frown, no defensiveness. Just calm eye contact, stillness, silence. And silence is louder than any argument. The discomfort of stillness. Try this once and you'll see it happen. Someone makes a joke at your expense. Normally, you'd laugh nervously or correct them. Instead, you sit there, no reaction, no movement, just stillness. What happens next? The silence stretches. The manipulator shifts uncomfortably. The room feels heavier, and for the first time, they are the one exposed. That silence is not weakness, it's command. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He believed rulers must never let emotions dictate public action. In private, you can feel everything. But in front of the world, especially manipulators, you reveal nothing. Because emotions are data, and you never give data to the enemy. Modern examples. Look around. Entire industries manipulate you through urgency and emotional hooks. Marketing creates fake deadlines. Only 2 left in stock. Buy now. Politicians craft outrage to bait reactions. Influencers stir envy to push products. And what happens when you refuse to react? When you scroll past without rage, when you wait instead of rushing, when you choose not to engage? Their power collapses because their entire strategy relies on your emotional response. Now apply that in real life. A friend guilts you. After everything I've done for you, you can't help me just this once? Most people defend themselves, apologize, or comply. You, instead, say calmly, "Not this time." Then move on. No anger, no explanation, no guilt. That's emotional vacuum, and to a manipulator, it feels like suffocation. Historical proof. Cesare Borgia, the man Machiavelli admired most, mastered this principle. When betrayed by allies, he didn't explode in rage. He didn't reveal his feelings. He stayed calm, waited, and when the time was right, crushed them decisively. That calmness wasn't numbness, it was calculation, and it terrified his enemies more than anger ever could, the first transformation. From now on, remember this: manipulators survive on asymmetry. They act, you react. Break that pattern and they starve. When they push, you reflect. When they provoke, you give silence. When they bait you with kindness or guilt, you stay flat. This isn't about being numb, it's about being in command. It's about choosing when and how to reveal yourself, if at all. And the more you practice it, the more you'll feel the shift. You'll watch people falter when their tricks stop working. You'll see the discomfort in their eyes when they realize they can't move you. That's when you know the illusion is broken. But this is only the beginning. Reflection and silence are defensive weapons, ways to stop being prey. If you want to go further, if you want to dominate instead of merely survive, you need to control something even greater than emotions. You need to control time itself. The control of time and validation. If emotion is the fuel manipulators use against you, then time is the battlefield they try to control. They want you rushed, cornered, and pressured into choices before you can think. But Machiavelli understood something most people still don't. Time is not neutral. Time is a weapon, and if you don't control it, someone else will. The tyranny of speed. Think about the last time you felt pressured into saying yes. Maybe a boss pushed you. "I need an answer right now." Maybe a salesperson said, "This offer expires today." Or maybe a partner cornered you. "If you don't decide now, I'll know where we stand." This is no accident. Manipulators use urgency because urgency kills clarity. When you're rushed, you don't see the trap until you're already inside it. Speed is their ally. Delay is yours. Strategic delay. The Machiavellian counter to urgency is beautifully simple. Strategic delay. You don't react when they expect it. You don't reply the moment they demand it. You slow the game down until they start to sweat. Picture this. Your manipulative coworker sends you a sharp email at 9 a.m. demanding a quick response. The average person would scramble to reply within minutes, desperate to look competent. You, instead, wait. Noon comes and goes. Late afternoon arrives. Then, calmly and briefly, you reply. By then, they've already unraveled, maybe double-emailed, maybe softened their tone, maybe exposed their desperation. The urgency they once held over you has dissolved into nervous silence. You didn't resist them with words, you resisted them with time. Silence as a clock. In conversation, the same rule applies. Someone confronts you aggressively, expecting immediate defense. Instead, you pause, you breathe, you let silence expand like a ticking clock. That silence is not passive, it's surgical. It forces the manipulator into uncertainty, and uncertainty is poison to their control. They'll talk more, reveal more, overplay their hand, all because they can't stand the stillness. You, meanwhile, remain calm, gathering data, revealing nothing. This is how kings operate. This is how power speaks without raising its voice. Validation as leverage. But urgency is only half the trap. The other half is subtler and far deadlier. Manipulators don't just pressure you with time, they bait you with validation. They know that deep down, most people crave two things: praise and approval. And so they use both like levers. If flattery works, they'll drown you in compliments. "You're the best. No one else can do this like you. If flattery fails, they'll pivot to guilt. After everything I've done for you, you can't even help me this once. Two different weapons. One pulls your ego, the other pulls your conscience. Both enslave you to their agenda. Reward reversal. So, what's the Machiavellian counter? You don't reject validation. You don't chase it either. You flip it. You make them crave it from you. This is called reward reversal. Instead of rewarding manipulative behavior with your approval, you withdraw. Instead of defending against guilt, you stay flat. Someone flatters you? You nod vaguely, change the subject. No thanks, no oversmile, no desperate need to reciprocate. Someone guilts you? You say calmly, not this time. And you move on. No explanation, no defense. Suddenly, the manipulator's greatest weapon turns into a void. They wanted to feed on your need for approval, but instead, they find themselves starving for yours. Modern examples. Imagine a meeting. A manipulative coworker takes credit for your idea, expecting you to either explode in anger or shrink in silence. Instead, you publicly compliment someone else's contribution, ignoring the manipulator completely. You've denied them the spotlight, you've denied them validation, and you've redirected the flow of power. That's dominance without confrontation. Or consider a relationship. Your partner says, "If you really loved me, you'd do this." Most people would defend or comply. You instead say, "Love isn't measured like that." Then you move on. You don't argue. You don't explain. You starve the manipulation. In both cases, the result is the same. They begin chasing you. Historical proof. Machiavelli admired rulers who mastered this art. Ferdinand of Aragon, for example, rewarded allies and subjects selectively. He gave just enough praise to keep them striving for more, but never so much that they felt secure. His validation was scarce, and therefore priceless. That's the game you must play. Your approval is not cheap. It is not automatic. It is not controlled by others. It is your resource, your weapon, your power. And when you choose to withhold it, you control the frame of every interaction. The double weapon. Think about what happens when you combine these two tactics, delay and reward reversal. Someone pressures you for a quick answer and you pause. They soften, then flatter you to pull you back in. You remain unmoved, cold, calm. They don't just lose once, they lose twice. Time and validation, the two weapons they relied on, are now yours. The transformation. From now on, urgency is not your command. Urgency is your signal. It tells you that someone is trying to control you, and your answer is always the same. Slow down, delay, force them to unravel. And validation, that is no longer their weapon. It is yours. You decide when to give it, when to withhold it, and who deserves it. Because here is the Machiavellian truth. Approval is power, and the one who controls approval controls the room. So ask yourself, how many times in the last week did you rush into decisions you regretted? How many times did you give away validation too cheaply? Now imagine what happens when you reverse it. When you reclaim time, when you reclaim approval, you're no longer the one chasing, you're the one being chased. And that's only the beginning. Because if time is a battlefield, then the next weapon is the fog of war itself. The power of being unreadable, untouchable, and impossible to predict. The fog of war. If there's one thing manipulators hate above all else, it's uncertainty. They study you like a puzzle. They listen for patterns, contradictions, slips of the tongue. Every question they ask, what are you thinking? Where do you stand? What's your next move? Is reconnaissance. They don't want to know you because they care. They want to know you because information is control. And the more predictable you are, the more power they hold. That's why Machiavelli taught a principle few ever grasp. Clarity makes you vulnerable. Ambiguity makes you dangerous. The trap of being an open book. You've been told your whole life to be yourself, to speak your truth, to be transparent. Noble advice, maybe, but in the wrong hands, it's suicide. To a manipulator, transparency is a blueprint. Every confession you make is a coordinate on their map. Every explanation gives them leverage. Every moment of oversharing arms them against you. You think you're building connection. In reality, you're handing them ammunition. Ambiguity as armor. So what's the Machiavellian counter? You stop being a map. You stop being a puzzle that's easy to solve. You become fog. Ambiguity is not lying. It's discipline. It's refusing to give others access to your inner world unless it serves your strategy. When asked, "What do you want out of this?" you say, "I'm still deciding." When pressed with, "Why didn't you answer right away?" you say, "I reply when I've thought it through." When pushed with, "What's wrong with you?" you say, "I'm processing." Short, vague, calm, enough to close the question, but not enough to hand them control. Suddenly, the manipulator can't read you, and when they can't read you, they can't trap you. The power of mystery. Think about it. Why do people obsess over those who are mysterious? Why are we drawn to the unreadable, the unpredictable, the enigmatic? Because mystery breeds value. When you're predictable, you're disposable. When you're mysterious, people cling to you, chase you, try desperately to decode you. This is true in relationships, in business, in leadership. The leader who reveals every thought is respected less than the leader whose silence forces others to guess. The partner who's always available is taken for granted more than the one who maintains a little distance. Mystery is not weakness. Mystery is magnetism. The psychological fog. Here's the secret. People hate silence. They hate gaps. They rush to fill them. When you withhold, they overshare. When you pause, they ramble. When you give vague answers, they reveal their own assumptions. And in those assumptions, they expose themselves, their fears, their desires, their insecurities. This is why ambiguity is not passive. It's active. It's psychological warfare. You're not avoiding the game. You're controlling the board by forcing the other player to stumble in the dark. Machiavelli's fox and lion. Remember Machiavelli's teaching, a ruler must be both lion and fox. The lion frightens with force. The fox survives with cunning. Force is visible. Cunning is hidden. Ambiguity belongs to the fox. You're not indecisive when you're ambiguous. You're untouchable. You're not cold. You're calculating. You're not distant. You're disciplined. The lion shows strength. The fox hides intention. Combine them, and you become unreadable, and therefore unstoppable. Modern applications. In negotiation, ambiguity is power. The person who reveals their bottom line too soon loses. The one who stays vague forces the other side to guess, hesitate, and compromise. In leadership, ambiguity commands attention. If you're too transparent, people plan around you. If you're too mysterious, they tread carefully, afraid of missteps. The most powerful leader is not the loudest. It's the one no one can quite figure out. In relationships, ambiguity creates depth. When you're warm one moment and unreadable the next, you create contrast. That contrast keeps people hooked, cautious, afraid to lose what they don't fully understand. Historical proof. Machiavelli praised Ferdinand of Aragon, who cloaked his true ambitions behind the mask of religion. His subjects thought he acted out of faith. In reality, he was consolidating power. By the time his intentions were clear, he was already too strong to oppose. That's the power of ambiguity. It buys you time, conceals your strategy, and forces others to move blindly while you move with precision. The transformation of fog. From this day forward, stop giving people a map to your mind. Stop explaining yourself out of habit. Stop revealing everything just to fill silence. Instead, cultivate fog. Speak less. Reveal less. Let others wonder. Let them chase clarity. You'll never give freely, because when you are unpredictable, others hesitate, and hesitation is the seed of your control. So ask yourself, when was the last time you explained too much? The last time you gave away your plan too early? The last time you handed someone the coordinates to use against you? Now imagine if instead you had said nothing. Or better yet, something vague, something that left them uncertain. How differently would that interaction have ended? This is the fog of war, and in fog, the manipulator loses their vision while you sharpen yours. And if ambiguity makes you untouchable, then the final step makes you unforgettable, because once you master detachment, you hold the most terrifying power of all, the ability to walk away. Detachment and silent domination. What's the most terrifying kind of power? It isn't the ability to shout the loudest. It isn't the ability to force people with threats. The most terrifying power is the quiet certainty that you don't need anyone. Machiavelli said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved when one of the two must be lacking." But he wasn't talking about brutality for its own sake. He was talking about leverage. And leverage is born from one thing: detachment. The exit threat manipulators thrive on your fear of loss. They want you chained, emotionally, financially, socially. As long as you believe you can't leave, they can treat you however they want. In toxic relationships, the manipulator guilts you. If you leave, you'll regret it. At work, a manipulative boss pressures you. You'll never get an opportunity like this again. Friends, family, lovers, colleagues, all can use attachment as a leash. But here's the Machiavellian counter. You project the truth that you can walk away at any moment, quietly, without warning, without begging. And that possibility alone, the exit threat, changes everything. When people know you can leave, their manipulation collapses. Suddenly, they're cautious, respectful, even fearful, because they realize the balance of power is reversed. They need you more than you need them. The reality of detachment. But let's be clear. The exit threat only works if it's real. You can't bluff detachment. You can't fake independence. If you're emotionally chained, financially dependent, or socially desperate, people will sense it. They'll know your threat to walk away is hollow. That's why you must build your strength in silence, emotional discipline, financial independence, and the mindset that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's approval. Imagine the shift when you stop chasing people's acceptance. Imagine walking into every interaction knowing, I choose to be here. I don't have to be here. That calm, unspoken truth is Machiavellian leverage in its purest form. The coldest weapon, playing dumb. But detachment alone isn't enough. There's one more weapon manipulators never see coming because it feels too simple to be dangerous. It's the art of playing dumb. You see the jab, you hear the trap, you notice the manipulation, but instead of reacting, you let it pass, as if you didn't notice at all. A manipulator throws a sly insult at you. You smile faintly, then move on. They bait you with a loaded question. You shrug, disinterested. They try to corner you with guilt. You look calm, unfazed, as if their words never landed. Outwardly, you look oblivious. Inwardly, you're recording everything, waiting for the right time. Why does this work? Because manipulators expect resistance. They want defense. They want emotion. When you give them nothing, they overextend. They reveal more. They get sloppy. And when the time comes, you expose everything with a single move. The ghost effect combined attachment with strategic ignorance, and you become something new. Untouchable. You are the ghost in their game. You need nothing. You chase nothing. You react to nothing. And in that unreadability, manipulators crumble, They can't guilt you because you don't cling. They can't bait you because you act as if you don't notice. They can't read you because your silence reveals nothing. You're no longer a pawn in their script. You're the one rewriting the script itself. Modern proof. Picture a toxic workplace. A colleague undermines you, expecting a heated argument. Instead, you let them talk, calm and silent. Later, you present results that crush their narrative. They thought you were blind. In reality, you were watching the whole time. Or, in a relationship, someone tries to provoke jealousy, waiting for you to snap. Instead, you remain calm, indifferent. They push harder, reveal their own insecurity, and in the end, expose themselves completely. That is the art of playing dumb, letting them believe they're winning until they trap themselves. The final transformation. At this point, you've walked through Machiavelli's world step by step. You've shattered illusions. You've starved manipulators of emotion. You've mastered timing. You've reclaimed validation. You've cloaked yourself in fog. And now, you've embraced detachment and silent domination. These are not tricks. They are weapons. And with them, you stop being prey. Because when you no longer need anyone's approval, when you can walk away at any time, when you can smile at manipulation as if it never touched you, you cross into rare territory, the territory of the unreadable, the untouchable, the Machiavellian, the challenge. So here's my question to you. Are you ready to become that person? The one who doesn't flinch when others push? The one who doesn't explain when others pry? The one who doesn't cling when others threaten to leave? Because that person commands respect without asking for it. That person terrifies manipulators without raising their voice. That person doesn't chase power. They are power. Machiavelli believed the world was cruel, yes. But he also believed that those with clarity and strategy could bend that cruelty into strength. Now, it's your turn, so tell me, do you think Machiavelli was right, or was he too ruthless? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're ready to keep mastering the hidden rules of power, subscribe to Ruthless Psychology and join this community, a place where we uncover the truths most people are too afraid to face. Because your war doesn't begin tomorrow, it begins now. And this time, you're not the one being played. This time, you're the one pulling the strings.